Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi. Welcome to what is usually weather in 5, unless you're a Patreon member, and then it's weather in 10. But I think what I'm going to do today is we'll make it weather in 7.5 to sort of compromise. Because we got a lot going on. There have been a few questions today regarding some of the weather conditions that have been seen across the Northeast. So I'm going to address those, and we're also going to take a look at the potential tropical cyclone that's developing in the Gulf of Mexico. First off, in the Northeast, and when running from about northern New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania, through the Hudson Valley into southern New England, you'll notice that there's a sort of a white, filmy haze here on the satellite loop. That is actually smoke from fires in Ontario and in Saskatchewan and Canada that have been finding their way southeastward, mainly due to the upper air winds. The ones in Ontario are the smoke from the fires in Ontario are actually moving southeastward across parts of upstate New York, mainly north and east of the Catskills up to the Adirondacks, and visible down even into northern New Jersey and Long Island. The Saskatchewan fire is actually not visible on this picture, but some of the smoke from that is actually running down into parts of Kentucky. So it's not your imagination that the sky looked pretty hazy today. That is actually wildfire smoke. And we've been dealing with that on and off since the middle part of May. Now, the other issue is the low that is developing in the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see on the latest satellite loop that we're seeing the system gradually becoming better organized. It's not yet there to the point where we can actually say that this is going to be a tropical cyclone or a tropical depression or a tropical storm. There's still a little bit more work to do with regards to the northeastern part of this. You notice that there's an opening in the cloud cover in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. You're seeing some convection developing along the Florida Panhandle, southward down to Tampa, St. Pete, and the main area of thunderstorms is offshore. The issue here is that we have several low centers that are being indicated by the reconnaissance aircraft, and what usually happens in a situation like this is that one of them winds up being the main low, and once that happens, that's when you start to see some strengthening. Now, the big question is, what is this going to do? I think this is at the very least going to become a tropical storm. And if we see the low center that's furthest offshore develop, that probably will give it enough time to perhaps strengthen into a minimal hurricane. The issue going forward, as far as track is concerned, is high pressure to the north. If that gives way, you're going to see this rapidly turn northward and northeastward over time. But there is going to be an upper high to the north that's going to want to steer it as far to the west as it can. If that high is stronger than modeled, you could potentially see something head further west toward the Texas coast, and in which case you're talking about something that's going to have a lot more time over the open waters, and conditions are quite favorable for strengthening here as this system goes forward. So we're going to one of the frustrating things in terms of trying to forecast something like this is you literally have to wait for it to organize and strengthen. And if the low center to the north is the one that becomes dominant and it's closer to the coast, then you're talking about something that would not have opportunity to get as strong. So we're sort of in this place right now where we're just going to have to wait and see how this evolves over the next 24 to 48 hours. The Hurricane Center is basically splitting the difference with regards to its forecast here, strengthening it to a tropical storm overnight and on Thursday, and then strengthening it to a hurricane before landfall somewhere along the Louisiana coast. And where you see that pink color there from Boothville almost to about Lake Charles, that's where you have your hurricane watches that are up, at least for the time being. This is not going to be any threat to the Northeast and no threat to our area. Now, back home, we have an issue for tomorrow, and that is thunderstorms. We have a cold front that is going to be approaching and moving through, and it's going to be a very warm to hot day with thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening. The Storm Prediction Center has a fairly large area of risk, slight risk for Pennsylvania, into New York State, down into Virginia and West Virginia, And by the way, if you look at the GFS model here, you can see what it does with the potential tropical system as it brings it just about to minimal hurricane before bringing it inland. But again, if that upper high is stronger, that is going to make this thing possibly go further to the west. For us, after we get these thunderstorms late tomorrow, Friday, it's back to some sunshine and clouds, maybe an isolated shower or storm in the afternoon. Saturday looks pretty good. There's another weak front that comes through here Saturday night, not much with that. And we're setting up for very warm to hot conditions for at least a few days next week as high pressure builds along the east coast, along and off the east coast, typical Bermuda high fashion. And you'll notice that by then the storm is long gone, of course, assuming that it moves inland. So bottom line is for us, our summer weather is going to continue at least until further notice with nothing too unusual. And we're going to continue keeping you abreast of what's going on with any potential tropical storm Barry or possibly a Hurricane Barry in the Gulf of Mexico. But right now, we're still in the organizing stage. Remember that. So there's a lot that can happen here in either direction, and we're just going to want to keep a watch, pay attention. If you're on the Louisiana coast and you're watching from there, you've been through this many times. If you're on the Texas coast, you've been through this many times. If you're on the Florida coast, although I think the risk for you is not really there, it's going to be in areas to the west. But just keep a watchful eye, and let's see what happens here over the next 24 hours. All right, have a great rest of your day. I'm on vacation. I'm fishing. So this is my break in the evening from not catching any fish during the day. I do a little bit of weather. Have a great night, everybody.